Dayna, welcome to Dying to Live.
Hi, how are you? Pseudo big sister, I guess. Is that what we're calling it?
I think we are. I think we are.
Um, Amazing. Are you drinking a nice Cab Sauv? Is
I
that what I'm
have
seeing?
I have a Malbec, which is my favorite red.
I love Malbec, and I've really been getting into Pinot Noir because it's not because I just turned 30. I've had horrible hangovers my whole life, and when I drink red wine, I feel like I was hit by a truck. Okay. Do you mind if I pause? I'm gonna get a beer so we can
Yeah,
have a cocktail together while we're doing this.
please
Please hold.
do. Oh, it's your
Was that
jacket.
the first time a guest has done that?
That is, but this is also the first time that I'm having a beverage on this podcast because, we have to.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers to you.
Thank you so much for having me on. I've been dying to do this. Get it? Dying to live. I've been dying to do this for a while.
I'm so excited that you're here. And the reason I'm so excited is because I have known you since I think elementary school.
Yep.
Oh my God, Leo.
Sorry, my cat is all over the place also. Get down. Sorry. Okay, so yes, you have known me since I was pretty young.
Knee high to a grasshopper, the old folks say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I can say with 100% certainty that you are somebody who has always been every minute authentically yourself. You live out loud more than anybody else I know. And that's what I want to talk about today. Because usually we have a lot of folks on here that talk about ways that they have evolved their lives away from the prescription of their life, whatever was written for them. Like for me, it was you graduate high school, you go to college, you get married, you have kids, you are in corporate America until you die. And that's a wonderful life.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly you have evolved, and we'll talk about some of that today and all your really fabulous evolutions, but you have been authentically yourself this whole time. And what is your secret? How do you do that? What is that about? Do you know that about yourself? I guess let's start there.
Oh, 100%. I give no fucks. And for the most part, I think that's really served me. But then there's been times when it's bit me in the ass and I've had to have a slice of humble pie, but I make no apologies for who I am. And I highly recommend everyone does that. Like, to me, life is just too short and I'm unwilling to shrink myself to be around anyone else. So if you don't catch my vibe, that's fine. But then, like, I don't need to fuck with you. It's pretty much
Fuck
that simple.
yes.
I don't know if you swear. Do people swear on this?
Yes, I swear all the time on this.
Great.
Welcome to Fuckville. Um,
So I do know. Yes, I've always been aware about that. I've always marched to the beat of my own drum, and it made for some things growing up and in my childhood, it made for a really difficult time. But then I think as I got older and I was really secure in who I was, in terms of like college age, not where I am right now. But I think that was something that was a really big differentiator for me because I saw how, we all have insecurities, right? But I saw how insecure people were in who they were and weren't sure on a path and were just like following a pack. And that's just never been who I am.
so in childhood, because that is I think that's the turning point for a lot of us. I think we start school and we're like so into whatever we're into, and we're so happy about that, and then socialization comes in and we're like, oh, that person's not into gnomes the way I'm into gnomes, and maybe gnomes aren't cool. So where did that come up for you when you were a kid that is like really viscerally rememberable to you?
I mean, I feel like it was pretty obvious early on. So I'm an old soul for sure, and I have to credit a lot of this attitude to my mother. However, I have an older sister, 2 years older than me, Brittany, and I don't think she picked this up in the same way. But my mom and I were born on the same day, and I was a carbon copy of her, and that's how she lived her life. She was like, "Fuck it, I don't care what anyone has to say about anything. Like, live your most authentic life and you'll never make a mistake. Truly, just like keep being guided by whatever it is your inner voice telling you to just do whatever you want to do and don't subscribe to the popular bullshit of like what people want." And when you're 9 and that is your attitude and you're on the Foursquare like park thing and kids are like they were way more chill than me. They like I like to hang out with my mom and her biddies when they like got hammered on Chardonnay like 4 in the afternoon. Like that's who I like to kick it with. I didn't get kids. I was, you know, an old soul. And when you're like that, like it made for this disconnect where I didn't understand them and they didn't understand me. And also I was a fucking brat back in the day. Like first to admit that, had to
Yeah.
work out some of that. So like I've been really grateful for the lessons in my life. And large part of that is your sister Courtney that has made me a better person and like more chilled out. But I think that my first really defining moment was in 8th grade. I was 13. I don't know what you remember about this, but it was really hard. And like, a friend of mine had something horrible happen to her, and I encouraged her to go to the police.
Oh yeah.
And that was like my only involvement. And it was involved these three popular students, and everyone came for me. Like they made it a thing that all I did was support her in that journey. And 8th grade was, even now I'm 30 years old. Looking back on that, it's very painful still. Like it changed a lot about my personality. It's where I think I had already had a predisposition for mental illness, also because of my mom, but then that's really where that started to show. And I went from being this like really bubbly, vivacious kid to just completely dead inside, and was just really withdrawn and depressed and so anxious, like having full-blown anxiety attacks when I was a child. And when you go through something like that so young, and I mean, it probably sounds stupid to people, right? They're like 8th grade, whatever. It was horrible. Like my mom, and I've also mentioned her 1,000 times already. I want to preface because I'm sure we'll talk about this. My mom was my best friend, and she passed away when I was 22. And up until that time, if we ever talked about 8th grade, she would bawl her eyes out. She like couldn't talk about it because it was just a really hard time in our family. Like they wanted to pull me out of school, they wanted to, transfer me, whatever. And I think that that was my first moment of really being shaken by other people. But I'm grateful for that time because it was an enormous stepping stone on evolving who I was to get to that place. But I describe as being unfuckwithable, but you can also call it being authentic.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I do remember that. I remember that pretty vividly. So when I was growing up, I lived in a really small town. There was one school and there wasn't an option to go to a different school. But there were several times had I had the option, I would have relished in the idea of going to a different place, starting over. And that's something that we've done with my daughter Zach, who we switched schools a few
Mhm.
times so that she could be authentically herself. What kept you in that school? What kept you from wanting to go somewhere else?
That I'm a stubborn bitch and I never walk away from a fight. And I would cry every day on the way to school. And I would like make my mom wait to like take me into the school area, get it together. And she'd be like, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. And I was like, Mom, oh my God, this is like making me emotional talking about it. I was like, Mom, if I don't do this, they win. And so I'd like go through school, get tortured all day, get home, get tortured on AIM, and just do it all over again. But I want to say it's because I'm tough for a fighter, but I also think my personality, I have a tendency to choose the harder road. And Courtney would say that. And I don't know if it's like a masochistic component of my personality or me always testing my limits of how much I can take and to get stronger and keep going. But that's pretty much what kept me there at that time. My mom wanted me out of school. She wanted me homeschooled or in another one.
Mm. You and
Well,
Zach are a lot.
Zach has really, right. Zach has really flourished though in her new school,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, yes, yes. She has. She has. And in fact, I think we might be looking for a new school next year because she's evolved. She's evolved out of the academics and she's kind of ready and she knows who she is now, or she always knew who she was. She's living fully how she is and who she is, and that's amazing. But you
She's
and
so
she,
incredible, but you're also such an incredible mom. She has you and her dad to thank for that.
oh, thanks. That's really sweet. That's I'll keep that close when she's being her teen self right now.
Well, also I feel like she and we're also similar in the same way that I never liked traditional school. I did not I didn't get good grades in junior high and high school. I got actually the best grades in my life in college, but it's because the structure was so much more free and I just hated that structure. I hated the people that were around me, and when you're a kid like that, you're forced into these social pods that aren't necessarily your people. It always makes you think of Blackfish, which if you haven't seen it, you should see it. It's so sad.
It is.
I
I
hate
can't
SeaWorld.
even. I
Um,
can't.
Oh my God, it's devastating. But what they say is when they were bringing whales from the ocean, they brought all these different whales that were from different social hierarchies and groups. And like when you stick them together and they're not necessarily one of the same, it causes so much contention.
Oh, yeah. And so you two are old souls in the same way. And she literally, I feel like she's such an old soul that she's like, yeah, I chose to come here again, to Earth to be born. And also, like, really, really, I'm going to go through like algebra again. Really, I have to do this stuff. Are you fucking kidding me? I know that is how she thinks because she said it to me. And it is so hard as a mom to watch that and to understand fully where she's coming from. And my job is then to be like, I know, but we have to be human. And to be human, we have to do these things. And that is what I'm here to guide her on, is like the experience of embodying herself as a human.
You came back, babe. Buckle up. You got to do school and then go do your purpose. But that you got to check that off the list.
Yeah. Sucks.
But she's so worldly because I've been doing Reiki lately and it's been really helping me. And they talk about, so I have certain abilities and I'm hyper intuitive. I'm a light worker, empath, medium, whatever you want to call it. And she's been saying, and I've heard this from other mediums before, you were meant to come back and fulfill your whole life because your last life ended short and all these different things. And that really never resonated to me until this Reiki person, even though I've always been really woot woot and into all the shit that you're into. But I think that's so incredible that she has the awareness that she's like, yeah, I'm back again.
Yeah. Meh. Your Reiki journey. So I listened to your podcast Unfuckwithable and
Mhm.
heard, I think like after your first session is the last one I listened to, and it sounded like it kind of blew your mind a bit.
Totally. It was a completely transcending experience. And I did it remotely and I wasn't sure how I felt about that, even though I'm so spiritual and I'm really open-minded and I'm out there and I've had a lot of paranormal experiences and like I was actually talking on the phone to Courtney today and I'm like dealing with some stuff right now and I told her I was like sometimes I'd like to be left in the dark. Like my intuition is so spot on and it's
Ugh.
sometimes it's really good but sometimes it predicts bad scary things and I'm like it's so like draining to me when that happens. And I just was really coming out of a dark part of my life where I mean, we're all having a really hard time right now. It's a pandemic. We're stuck in our houses. We're not living our normal lives. We're not all doing our best selves. I'm also unemployed at the moment, and I'm always busy. So that like inertia to halt was really tough for me. And then I also made a very foolish choice and got off my medication, which wasn't necessarily on purpose, but I am employed, so I didn't have insurance and I lost it. And it was just this like combination of things. And then it got so bad, I finally went to a doctor and got back on medication, but it takes a while to work and incorporated Reiki in my life because I've done cognitive therapy forever, my whole life. And I have gotten really beneficial things out of that. But I just think that spirituality to me is so much more clear and closer to my heart. And I just resonated with it. And I did one session and the person I go to is amazing. And she just saw me immediately and was like, you have these abilities she doesn't like to call it mental illness. She calls it a spiritual crisis, which I'll go either way, but I really liked that. And she was like, the problem is you're inexperienced and you're like being flooded with all these feelings and you need to have boundaries and you need to become an alchemist that when bad things come to you, you turn it around into something good and send it back out. And that's something I deal with constantly. Like if someone in a room has mean energy or they're really bummed out, like I have to take it on. And then I'm like, you'll notice it. Like I'll be bubbly and talkative. And then when someone fucks with my energy, like I can't be around them. So it's like something I'm trying to work through right now with her, but it's been amazing. We've done 5 sessions.
I love that so much. So I have to tell you first that um so my own abilities have been coming online more and more. And I can't remember if we talked about this the last time we were together, about the last time I was with a medium and what Mary Lou came through and told me. Did we talk about
Yeah,
this?
I can't remember. We did, but remind me because I can't remember what she said.
So she said basically what you just said, which was stop going to therapy. It's going to fuck you up. You've done enough of that. Yes, you've revisited childhood enough. Now there are like a million other modalities to try, and those are going to be more helpful to you. And since I've done that, I mean that is so true what you just said. So whether it's Reiki or craniosacral or, which by the
Mhm.
way, if you haven't done that, gotta do that.
I
Um,
haven't, but I've heard really good things.
Yeah, I'm trained in it too. So next time I see you, I'll give you a little sesh.
Let's do it.
But those things are so helpful for us, and I'm so glad that you found someone too that's helping you think about your boundaries. I've encountered so many people that have strong intuitive gifts and they've been labeled as schizophrenic, and believe me, I
Mhm.
understand mental illness is real. And
Mhm.
also some of us that have these open portals and are not in this society taught how to manage them get flooded with all of that information, and our systems aren't handling it. We don't know how to handle it, and our emotional bodies can't handle it. And that's why these other modalities exist and teachers and guides exist, so that they can help us relate in this world.
Well, absolutely, and I think it was a million things, and, like, I've always been I mean, I started having paranormal stuff pretty much my whole life, but, like, when I was 16, there was a hard turning point when we moved into this house, and it was just, like, covering me, and I, like, saw them, and I saw these things before my family did. I'm like, "You guys, there's something here." No one believed me, and then slowly over time, shit went down with all of them, and I was like, "Suckers, I told you." And it's like, I've always had that, but then I think that my intuitive side in my 20s really turned on. And when I was talking to a medium in last February, like, and he kind of reflected the same thing she said about my abilities. And he was just like, you're a light and you don't know how to turn that off right now. And so passers buyers who are lost just look for that because they think it's their opening or whatever. And once you get that control and understand that, like, the main thing I got out of cognitive therapy really was building boundaries with people in my life. And I'm really grateful for that, but I don't have energetic boundaries right now, and I'm like so on that frequency right now. It's bigger than my cognitive brain. Like I learn more about a person by just being around them than I do with them even saying anything. They don't even say anything to me. Like, I know what's going on. And I really look forward to continuing to get control of that because it is a bummer right now when I let other people's shit affect how I'm doing when it shouldn't be that way. And we should be able to put out good and move forward.
Yeah, it is a beautiful day when you realize, oh, what I'm feeling, what I'm holding right now is not my own. It's someone else's, and I don't have to do that anymore. But it
Mhm.
takes so much practice. So I applaud you. Well done.
Totally. Thank you. Thank you. Love hearing about all your journeys too and everything that you've been doing. Do you feel like that was a really the catalyst for that? Maybe you'd always been into it was Mary Lou's death.
That's a really good question. I think that that brought to the forefront this idea that life is short, right? I mean, that sounds so trite, but I have this very visceral knowledge. I feel it every day that like every moment counts, and we have only so much time to be and experience and do here. So I think that's what it brought forward to me and allowed me to step into the place of saying no to things that I don't want to do anymore, and removing people that aren't here for my highest good and don't amplify my
Oh,
life.
yes. Yes. I mean, so for me, in terms of going back to the authentic stuff, the biggest game changer for me was although I had already had this strong personality and really knew myself, you're continuing to grow all the time. It's a never-ending process. But when I learned to cut toxic people out and make no apologies for that, and anyone who is not serving my energy, it's not me being petty or anything, but I'm not going to allow you to be around me. I don't want any situations around me that I don't you have to understand how you are participating in the chaos and toxicity of your life because there are a lot of things that have happened to me in my life that were completely out of my control and very unfair, but I don't dwell on them. But the things that I can control, I just like ended up reflecting on this pattern of why I was so unhappy and what was going on. And I'm like, life is so fucking short. You do not have to entertain anything that is not for you ever. If it's not heading toward your highest good, you have to reject it.
Yes, and I love this idea that we're not really taught, which is that we have a choice. It is our choice. Everything is our choice. Relationships are our choice. Like, especially that's a big one where I think women especially end up wanting to be like the person that's chosen. Well, fucking flip that around, because you're the one that gets to make the
Mm,
choice. You're making the choice. Your prey comes to you. You don't go to your prey. That's not how a lioness
mm-mm,
lives.
mm-mm. Well, and that's also part of it because I had particular issues with relationships and I can Freud the shit out of that from things from my childhood and whatever. But then I finally like woke up one day and I'm like, I am unwilling to accept this behavior. So I think I see so many of my friends and people around me. I was doing an Instagram series during quarantine because I was so bored called Wine to Me. And people would send me problems and I would give them my true answers, but also just like in my style. And it always interested me when they sent me their problems. I was like, this is so obvious to me, but also when you're in it, you're sometimes too close to the elephant, or maybe they haven't had their breakthrough yet where they are putting themselves first and their love of themselves is so infectious that they can't accept anything less. And it's just like you have to stop making excuses for other people's baggage. You do not have to let anyone in your life that says that. Actually, really quick, can I find that we can keep talking, but I want to
Yeah.
find this quote from that book I was talking about because we're
Yes,
on this
please.
subject that, okay, actually, I favorited it, so I had it. So this is from the book The Universe Has Your Back by Gabrielle Bernstein, and I recommend it to every single person I meet. It completely changed my life like 3 years ago. And this just resonated with me, and I'm sure it will with you too for someone who's had such severe loss. But it says the pathway to healing occurs when you love yourself so much that the darkness from the past can no longer coexist with your faith in the light of the present moment.
Ugh. Yes.
And I didn't love myself for years. I was a mess after my mom died and I made so many mistakes and I was so empty, but it's like I cut people out who shouldn't have been in my life and I learned to love myself and put myself first and furiously love myself and not apologize for that. And my life completely started to click. Like that's when I fell into my groove with the universe and I felt that power and things started evolving.
Yes. I love that so much. I think for me, I have loved myself deeply in intervals, but then I get away from it and I the true commitment to loving myself probably only happened a couple of years ago. And there is no
Hmm.
going back now. It's like once you know something you can't unknow it. Um but oh shit, I was just going to say something and now I've lost it. Ugh. It was about
Well,
loving myself.
I completely agree with you though, because like that to me did not like truly happen until I was probably 27 or 28. And once you go there, you're never going back. Like I know I will, no matter what hardships I fall in my life, that cannot be taken from me. And there's so much power and happiness in that. Like no matter what bad situation I fall on or relationship that ends badly, like no one can take that from me.
Yeah. Oh, I know what it was. It was about not falling in love with potential. Like
Mm, mm-hmm.
really not accepting anything that isn't 100% what is meant for you, what you want, and what meets your highest good. Like, it's great that you think they have potential. Potential is not what is happening right now. So don't accept that.
Well, and you have to understand, even if they meet that potential at some point, it's not your job to hold their hand through that experience. It sounds like they have a lot of growing to do and things that they need to figure out. And you're so right. So many people make excuses for others when it's like, I I decided when I turned 30, like I wrote a letter to the universe the night of before I turned 30 and listed out, the things I'm proud of in my life, hardships I've overcome, what I want from life going forward, what I'm looking for, and how much faith I have. And one of the things I pointed out to myself was the day I'm done. If someone is not gonna, if they aren't gonna give you, they're not aligned on what you're looking for in your life and where you want to be, no more, no more projects. It's just that simple. Like
Yeah.
if someone needs to figure that out, go figure it out. But it's not gonna be with me on my time.
Yeah. Got enough projects. You're not gonna be a
Hmm.
project.
Hmm.
Yeah. I love
I'm
that.
dealing with IKEA all the time. Okay, I have enough projects in my life. I don't need you.
I don't need a little wrench. The little wrench does not come with you.
No, no. If you're not fully assembled, I don't fuck with it.
No. My IKEA, by the way, now comes fully assembled because I'm not doing that with my time.
Well, Courtney's my IKEA assembler, so when I don't live near her, it's devastating.
I know she does love that. That is a bonus to a sister with that.
She gets off, she like loves it. She like says she's like, "Ugh, I don't want to do this," but then she like finds such joy in those projects. I'm like, can't relate, babe, but that's why she's the yin to my yang.
Yes. So I want to circle back for a minute to the point when your superpowers came online, which was about the time when I turned mine off. So I remember vividly being a young person and feeling things other people didn't feel and seeing things people didn't see. And in high school specifically, those things coming online really strongly. And for instance, the phone, and I'm talking about the phone on the wall. Okay. I know you
Mhm.
probably had a phone on the
Mhm.
wall. There's a lot of people listening that might not have had a phone on the wall, but that's where it lived at the time. You couldn't see who was calling, for those that don't know about the phone on the wall. And I would the phone would ring and I would say, "Oh, it's grandma. Oh, it's aunt
Same.
whoever." And my mom would be like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "I just do." And then I remember very specifically a point in time when I would do this card trick where there would be a deck of cards and someone would show me the backs of cards and I could go through the whole deck and name every card without looking at them. And I freaked myself out at that point and just turned everything off. And it wasn't until, I don't know, a handful of years ago, really Mary Lou's death probably, that it all started to come back online more and more. So I'm grateful for it now.
Oh my God, me too. I wouldn't change it. And it's an ode to my mom. And I'm just so grateful that so many about the things that I love about myself are from her, and it's special. And it's also, it was meant to be. Like I came back here for this soul contract. Like that was always going to happen. So for me, it was definitely, I noticed it was little things like that. Like my mom would notice it. Like when she would, the phone would ring and I would say who it was and she'd answer the phone and be like, how did you know that? Like totally, I experienced that. I'm still like that. I was with a friend the other day and my phone started ringing my purse. I was like, oh, it's my sister. And she was like, what do you mean? And I pulled it out and I was like, hi, Brittany. Like, I just know it's people especially when I'm like connected to you, I just know, like, I always know when Courtney's calling.
Mm-hmm.
And, but then when we had moved into a house where I think there were forces happening there, but then also I think that it was this big ice that was about to crack that had been waiting to fully be like, okay, you are this way. So here it is. And it was really overwhelming at first, but then ever since then, I was just so in tune to things. And I distinctly remember like my intuition really kicked in because I've always been intuitive. Women are superheroes, right? Like we all have intuition,
Mm-hmm.
but mine is just like done a bunch of drugs basically. So I was like 21 and I remember we were walking, I was with a friend who was at college as I was at Wazoo. And we were walking from the little like corner store and walking back to our house. And I stopped her and I gasped and I like stopped and she was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I don't know, something's wrong, something's wrong. And 2 seconds later, the police called me and our friend had something terrible happen to her. So it was like, and when it was second I hung up the phone, my friend looked at me and was like, holy shit. And, that's just gotten stronger and stronger. And I've learned to just trust it because it's always there and it's there for a reason. And I feel lucky to have that. Like it feels like my little superpower.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. Mine is trickling back really gently, probably because of the way that I turned it off. But 2 weeks ago, I was driving in the mountains and it was dark, completely dark. I was the only car on the road. And all of a sudden this voice said, "You're gonna hit a deer." And then 15 seconds later, two deer walked into the road and I'd had enough time because I knew to slow down and I didn't hit them. But like thank goodness. That is a mild case of knowing. But thank goodness that I listened and I was like, okay. And then I took a
And
minute
well,
and
and also totally. And I feel like the more you lean in, the more that your guides offer you that information. And it's a blessing, right? It's like our soul groups that are connected. That's who's telling you that information. And like everyone receives it in different ways. I think medium is actually it's a huge spectrum. It's not just like you see and speak to dead people every day or you have zero abilities. It presents differently in different people. And I've definitely gotten those where it's like a quick phrase and I'm like, and it's been information I needed. And then for me, it's like really from my chest area, like third eye, like really strong feelings that I get. And then also definitely still see dead people occasionally, but it's like, and mostly feel them. Like my whole body tenses up and Courtney always gets really frustrated with that. But I'm like, bitch, I can't help it. Like, what do you want me to do?
I just
There's
want
a
you
ghost
around.
here. Get over it.
I want you around me all the time as my like warning system because I have little inklings
Yeah.
of that. Like there's something in my house and it's a good entity, but also I know if I turned myself on more, I would fully get to know it and I'm not open to that. I don't want to do that right now. You need to come to my house and tell me what's here.
No, I've had to be the reason I had a medium here is because it's actually always been good energy or some I would call it like grumpy, like you not threatening, but like a curmudgeon or something. And I'm just like, okay, you're in my home, please leave. But then I had a weird experience at the end of last year until the spring of this year with some not good energy. And honestly, I don't want to go too far into it because I did on my podcast and then it started hyping up again, but it was just like unfamiliar territory and very unwelcomed. And the first time I felt scared since I was 16 by that. But then I like something the Reiki, it seems super obvious, but the Reiki gal repositioned me and was just like, you do not have to allow any spirit, entity, person for anything in your life that you don't want. And although I know that about myself, it was like, you're right. This is my fucking house. Leave me alone. Goodbye. Only light and love in here.
Yep.
Mm-mm.
Good job. Good job. All right. So let's switch gears and talk about something really, really scary to me, which is that you do stand up comedy. Holy fuck. That is like the most terrifying thing in the world to me. How do you do that? What got you into it? Tell me about that.
Wait, and actually, I had forgot. I was like lost this train of thought. And this is a good segue. So in terms of my abilities, also, so this one night, I had started doing stand up comedy like 3 months prior. I had only done open mics, and I'll give you the whole shebang after this. And I went to the Comedy Store, and we tried to get in lotteries. So it was like you get some stage time, which is in LA, it's impossible at the store unless you're someone really Dave Chappelle or Whitney Cummings or whatever. But they do accept new people to try stuff out. And there's this show that's called Kill Tony, and it's the most streamed YouTube show, live YouTube show in the world. And I didn't know what it was. And I went with my comedian friend who I met my first open mic, and she's still one of my best friends in LA. And she was like, "Well, let's just sign up for it." And I didn't even know what it was. I was like, "Fuck it." And there was like 100 spots, and I signed or then they had a ton of people that night, so they ended up putting people's names in a bag and drawing 25. And the second they brought the bag out, I was like, "Oh shit." I was like, I got picked. And they called my name, and she was like, "Oh my God." And then we went into the main room of the Comedy Store, which is 500 people, and it was packed. And mind you, up until that point, I had not performed comedy in front of more than like 10 people, tops, like 5 to 10 people. So in that group of 25, they were going to pick five. And we sat down, and hella ghosts at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. Could not be more haunted if it tried. Like, it's actually one of my favorite things about performing there is just like sussing it out, like spending time with them before I get on stage and just like observing the energy like moving throughout the rooms and like what's going on. And I sat down and I was like, are you aware there's 1,000 ghosts in here right now? And like, is this a thing? And she was like, "Oh no, it's super fucking haunted." I was like, "I'm going to get picked because of this. I know it. There's so many ghosts in here. They know my energy. I'm fully going to get picked." So he sat down, he calls the first few people. And then as he's drawing the next name, I grab her forearm so tight. And I was like, "Fuck, this is me." And he goes, "Okay, this name's kind of hard to pronounce. Is it Dayna Kathan?" And I was like, so then I went up in front of 500 people and did my best minute of comedy, and then they roast you for 7 minutes. So it was a really unique experience. But like every step of that way, I knew it was going to happen. I was just like, God damn it. So comedy for me has always been a thing because you can't tell I'm fucking hilarious. But also like that's how I like got my happy when I was little. Like I loved making my mom laugh. I loved making my friends laugh. I have always had an unusually quick wit. And it just like how, and also I'm a Leo. Like I like to entertain. I like to be the center of attention. I'm well aware of that fact. But in terms of what you said earlier about like the track of like you're born, you go to school, you get married, you have a kid, house, job, die.
Ugh.
I grew up I had a really humble background. My parents were not educated, and it was not like an expectation we went to college. Like my mom really wanted us to, but it wasn't a thing in our family. So my sister went first. Her and I are both first generation college students. And because of the life I had lived that was pretty unstable at times because of the lack of education in our household, I was like, my mom really instilled that in me. She was like, all I want you to do is get a good job and be independent and not have to rely on anyone else. And so I instilled that track in me. I was like, okay, I need to go get a job. I need to be successful. I need to go to Trader Joe's on Saturday mornings. I need to work out. I need to just do my 9 to 5 and whatever. And that's what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. I'm
Wait,
gonna
I need
go
to go
to
to Trader Joe's on Saturday
I,
morning.
I'm gonna go to a fucking Trader Joe's. I'm gonna get those Red Ryder bargains. I'm gonna go to fucking Bed Bath and Beyond sometimes. Like that's just where my mind was, like wanting normalcy because my childhood, and you don't realize it until you're out of your own reality that Brittany and I did not have a typical childhood. And like typical, like we were like kind of latchkey kids. Like my mom did a really good job with what she had. She was the best mom on planet Earth, but like yeah, not so typical. So my world blew up the day my mom died. it was like, in term, you were talking about mortality earlier. It sounds cliche, but it's true. Until you are really touched by death from someone you know intimately and love, like I just assumed that my mom would be there forever. And it was devastating to me. And I became a shell and like had to restart, and like she always gassed me up. So I had to relearn self-esteem, and I just didn't have it at the time. But I was still like, okay, I need to be on this one track mind and go to school and or now get a job and whatever. So I never thought that I would actually do comedy. And then so many serendipitous events happen that now I look back on and I'm like, this was so meant to be that I was in LA when I was. Like, I never thought I'd move to California, but then I was super depressed and unhappy when I was 26. And I was like, I've been here my whole life. I have nothing left here except for my sister and my friends who will always be my sister and my friends. And I had an opportunity to move with a job to California, to San Diego. And I was like, fuck it. I don't know one person there, but I'm going to go because I'd rather feel lonely in a city where I don't know anyone than feel lonely in the city I've been my entire life.
Mm.
So I moved. San Diego sucked. And if you're from San Diego, I'm sorry, I don't like it. It just wasn't for me. It was like really slow, and also I was coming off a bad time and I didn't know anyone. So I was there for about a year and a half. Seriously, no shade, San Diego. I'm sorry. I was there for like a year and a half, and I worked remotely, but my territory had expanded up to LA. At that time, I had a really serious, like cutthroat healthcare sales job that I was took up 110% of my life. And looking back now, I also know I chose that path because I wanted to not have to focus on my life and all the issues that I had. And so I just worked incessantly because that's what I was good at. That was a good performance indicator of like other things in my life. So I was like, well, I'm really good at work. Like that's how I valued myself, was in my job. So I moved to LA. I was like, I don't want to go back to Seattle. Let me just try LA. And I was dating this guy from San Diego who I was obsessed with. He was from Seattle. We had this it was really cute in the beginning. Like we had this instant connection, and I was already planning on moving. And when I moved, I was like, well, we don't have to keep dating. Like, I don't know about long distance. And he was like, no, like, let's do this. And then he ended up dumping my ass, like, so out of the blue, which I mean, it wasn't looking back, but like at the time I was like, what? We were like talking on the phone, going to bed. And he was like, hey, by the way, I want to break up with you.
Oh my
So,
God.
yeah. So that night, I was like laying up crying, and I had actually bought us tickets to the Comedy Store for one of the times he was visiting me. And I told him how much I loved being there and how much I wanted to do that. And he kind of brushed me off, was like, oh yeah, then like go do it. And I'm grateful for that because then I was like laying in bed and I'm like, and then I'd be like, like making myself laugh about the whole situation. And I also have horrible insomnia, which can also be attributed to my abilities, I think, but like it's a nightmare. So I stayed up the whole night, and I was like, you know what? You came to a new city. You are 28 years old. How about you fucking surprise everyone that knows you and don't self-destruct and make terrible choices to like not be sad anymore? Why don't you go take a Spanish class, which I did. I was like, you don't know Spanish. Let's go fucking learn Spanish and maybe you'll meet some people. And then I was like, that night I stayed up and I started writing, and I hadn't written since my mom died. Like I've always been a writer, and I wrote my first set that night, and I did it that week. I looked up open mics in LA, and I went to an open mic by myself, and I did my first comedy set, and it was like the most gratifying. To this day, was probably my favorite set I've ever done. It was only 3 minutes. I got up. I was so nervous, and I was just like, I've never done this before, and everyone was really supportive, which that wore off because comedians are dicks. So open mics now are not fun. But at the time, it was like this really special moment in my life. And then I was like, holy shit, I really like this. And I'm just going to do it for a hobby. So it turned into, every week. And then it turned into several open mics a week. And then I was like, I want to get on a fucking show. And then I started performing in actual comedy clubs and doing 7-10 minute sets. And it just kept developing. My mom always told me she thought I'd be famous and she thought I'd be a comedian. And now it's just so a part of who I am. And it like sucks for comedians right now during quarantine. It sucks for all of us, but like it's just like not a thing at the moment. So I've tried to be clever about transitioning some of that to social media, but I just fucking love it. By the way, I almost throw up every time before I go on. My nerves will never change. I have horrible nerves. I listen to Beyonce every time before I go on for like a minute and just do the damn thing. And some of them have not gone well and some have, but you always learn something.
That's so fucking important what you just said. You are terrified to do it, you do it anyway. That is what it is. There is no getting past fear. Fear doesn't leave us. It's always with us in some capacity. It's what you do with it. You do the thing anyway. That's like I'm starting this program, and I just recorded a bunch of videos for it. And in one of my videos, that's actually one of my self-care tips is doing something that you're afraid of anyway. It's like a boss self-care move because it tells your central nervous system, you got it. You got it covered. You're taken care of. You can do this thing. And that is amazing. So I applaud you for that. And you are fucking funny. And the way you've taken it to social media is really amazing and entertaining and such a joy when I come across a wine to me in my feed. And I was hoping
Well,
we could do a
thank
little
you.
wine to me now.
Yeah, let's do it.
And
Let's
I
do a
was
little wine to me.
a little wine to me. So I was thinking we could do some questions that come up a lot, either on this podcast or in the work that I do, kind of in the coaching realm. I'll throw them out at you, and then you give me your Dayna Kathan answer.
Let's do it.
Okay. So the first one is, how do I let go of toxic relationships?
You let them the fuck go. It's literally that simple. Snip, snip. Like, don't toxic people have a tendency of trying to put their feelers into you and keep you around and use you because you'll let them. So don't fucking let them. Do not let toxic relations. It's literally that simple. If you need to probably first recognize you're in one, and sometimes you can't. So take a step back and be like, why am I crying every fucking day? Like if you're crying every day in your relationship, you should probably like, let me look, let me talk to some people. And when you observe that that is what's going on, like the truth will set you free. Get the fuck out of there. Do not let that like today. If anyone listening is in a toxic relationship, thinks they might be, break up with them tomorrow.
You are a
Don't wait.
lioness. Your prey comes to you. You do not go to it.
No. Nope.
Okay. Next one. Something in my life is missing. I don't know what it is. What do I do?
I mean, it's never like for a lot of people, it's not so cut and dry of like, they're like, wow, so comedy was always an underlying thing. That's great for you, bitch. I don't know who I am or like what I want to do. So I'm super happy that's working out for you. But anyway, I'm miserable. The thing is, and this is just personally what I do, you have to trust the universe and be guided by it. So I think that also when we try to control things in our life, it moves us further from our purpose and what we ultimately want to be doing. So my first step on that would be to put it out there, put gratitude out there, put love out there, and just be open and say, I want to collaborate with you on my reality. I'm not sure what I want right now, but I know that you have so many resources and you want me to win. So like help show me that. And then also if you don't know what it is, like start doing random shit. Did most people take Spanish when they're like 15. I took it as a 28-year-old at a lingual center in Beverly Hills. Like when I first moved here, I loved it. It was so fun. I was learning a language. I got to know all these people. That was no one told me to do that. I just like one day it occurred to me that I didn't know a second language and I was tired of being a fuck idiot. So, like just start putting yourself out there. Be more of a yes person. Start expanding your horizons and just like Google how to eat, pray, love.
What, what comes up for me with this is the idea of curiosity.
Mhm.
Curiosity is so missing from this culture. And it is a
Mhm.
mind blowing concept. What happens when you get curious about yourself, what you're feeling in your body, what you're seeing in your day to day, how you're experiencing your work life, your relationships, your friendships? Get curious. Is everything really the best it can be? Are you creating the life that you want for yourself? Is there something else that you could be doing? What have you never learned, like Spanish, that you might be able to learn? What are you not tapping into? There's literally a never ending list of questions you could be asking about yourself and your life and the people in it and things that you're doing to get you closer to where you want to be.
I think you're so right. Also, we have blinders on a lot of times. And so again, if you don't know what you'd be interested in, then start reflecting. Start like taking space for yourself if that's meditating or going on a run or masturbating or whatever. Like do what you need to do to find peace and clarity and just start like listening for things. The signs are all around you. I promise, even if you're like I'm not a fucking medium. What are you saying? I'm living in Utah. But like their signs are there. And the more you pay attention to that, the more it will present itself to you.
Oh my God. Manifestation masturbation is like the most powerful thing ever. summoning something that
Oh,
you
yeah.
want through your own orgasm. Oh my God.
Love.
If you haven't
Love.
tried it, try it.
Try it now. Google it. You might
Do it
see
right now.
some, uncouth images, but push through.
Try it right now. Okay, last one, real life example. Let's just say hypothetically, I have a corporate job. And in my corporate job, there's a lot of folks that talk over, that, do the whole mansplaining thing. How do you tackle that?
Okay, so the thing that's tough about this is I'm from Federal Way, Washington. And if you don't know it, shout out Deuce Nickel Trey. You should learn about it. And how I handle things in my personal life when something pisses me off or someone tries to step to me is very different than the corporate world. And what's unfortunate about that is you have to navigate this line of not crossing a line, but being firm. What I would tell you about that is make your voice heard. Do you know what we just saw on the vice presidential debate? Kamala Harris say, I'm speaking. No, thank you. I'm speaking. And that, when the second I saw that, I was like, fuck yes. What a great example of being still so professional, but being like, shut the fuck up. That's what she was saying. Those eyes and the smile, it was saying,
Oh,
go fuck yourself. I'm speaking right now. So make a seat for yourself at the table, because oftentimes the people who are at the top of corporations are not interested in allowing anyone else that besides people who look like them to be at that table. So carve it out for yourself. Don't be afraid. So many women, like, it's just like how I also equate this to women who don't listen to their instincts when they're in a dangerous situation with a man, like out at a bar or whatever is the circumstance, because they're so worried about being polite and the societal norms that are put on us, to say, hey, you're creeping me out, stop. Like, that goes a long way. The same thing in work. Like, women are trained to feel guilty, to have imposter syndrome, to not want to speak up. But like, the more you do that, I think the more reaction it has. And women or men, anyone who is, maybe feeling shy in the workplace, but like has something to say, if you have something to say, make them listen.
I love it. I keep
Strong
coming
eye
back.
contact.
Strong eye
Well, I
contact.
was just saying, strong eye contact, very clear on what you're saying, some hand gestures, they'll get the point.
Some hand gestures, choice hand gestures. Yeah, I keep coming back to this. I've never used this before. It must be because it's you and you're a Leo. Lioness. Be a lioness.
Be a lioness. No one is like, your happiness and your success in this life lives and dies on your watch. So don't wait for anyone else to be giving you the things you need, or to have this big breakthrough emotionally or whatever. Like, you have to do that for yourself. And it could be a work situation, it could be a million other things, like relationships, friendships, whatever. But you have to carve out space for you, because no one is going to do that.
No one's coming to save you, bitches.
No. Ugh, we need to stop with those fairy tales at age 2, like telling that story, because it's not true. You can save yourself. You have the ability, so just do it.